The new LinkedIn Hiring Pro can't undo your last hire. The human postponer. They were the master of one phrase. I'll circle back on that. But 3 months later, you were the one doing all their work and wondering how big that circle is. But LinkedIn Hiring Pro can take the hiring load off your plate by automating the hiring busy work from the initial job post to scheduling interviews. Hire right the first time with LinkedIn Hiring Pro. Post a free job today at linkedin.com/quality.
This summer, say I do.
I am marrying a stranger.
Like never before.
Am I crazy?
It's a whole new Married at First Sight on Peacock.
Thank God I woke up in love.
With new experts.
My name is Dr. Lisa.
My name's Paul Brunson.
More couples.
This could be the start of a very successful marriage.
And more surprises.
Or maybe not.
Everything is just not enough.
You're a little bit crazy.
I don't know what's gonna happen. I want my fairy tale ending.
Married at First Sight, now streaming. New episodes Thursdays, only on Peacock.
Pod Save the King!
Hello and welcome to another episode of Pod Save the King. It has been a busy week in Royal Land. The King and Queen were there to meet Harry, Meghan and their children. We'll have more on that later. We've had England, unfortunately, crash out of the World Cup, but we'll be saving you from more It's Coming Home theme with England winning the World Cup, unfortunately, as we have lost to Argentina. But there's been plenty of sport on the horizon. We have had not only Harry talking about the Invictus Games, which is coming to Birmingham next year. We've had the Prince and Princess of Wales at Wimbledon with their children. Moving on, we've had King Charles pulling a pint, doing that royal duties that is called upon members of the royal family whenever they're in a pub. And of course, we are celebrating Queen Camilla's birthday today, 79, and it comes with a special birthday present, not to her, but from her. So, as usual, I'm your host, Russell Myers, the royal editor of the Daily Mirror, and I am delighted this week to be joined by our best Antipodean friend, Charlotte Foster, who is our royal reporter and will be able to take us through all of Harry and Meghan's exploits over the last few days, possibly give us some context as to why we didn't see Meghan. Why are they still popular in the UK and beyond? So, Charlotte, welcome to the pod.
Thank you so much for having me. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday indeed. We are still baking hot here in London. It has been an absolute scorcher. We are sweating through our eyes, but we are delighted to be here with you. So I suppose, listen, let's start with Harry and Meghan and Archie and Lilibet. I mean, what a week it was for Harry. We had not only the sort of will they, won't they be visiting the UK, Harry announcing that they were all coming, then 24 hours later having to sort of row back on that because of the issue with the Home Office and his security. Jennifer and I covered a lot of that last week. And of course, there was the discussions as to whether Meghan would be coming. Harry said that it wasn't safe enough to bring his children and his wife to London. So what was happening? We understand that they were on holiday in Europe. Harry flew over here solo. He got to stay. Well, he didn't get to stay at Buckingham Palace because of the sort of hullabaloo over whether he sent his reply back too late, said he didn't want to stay there. Then he said he did. And then, of course, he was sort of looking on Airbnb or possibly not, probably staying at one of his friends' luxury estates. But we do know, of course, that he did stay with his uncle, Earl Spencer, and that is where Meghan and the children flew into. So we understand that they flew into an airport in the Midlands. They just went straight to pick Harry up. And then they all went to see the King and the Queen, which I think is very, very interesting. Of course, Harry had been angling for this meeting with the King. Of course, we know that his previous meetings with his father have been pretty short. And I mean, what do we make of this? First of all, I think it's really, really interesting that the King had made some room in his diary with the Mirror did an exclusive just a few days before, that the conversations were ongoing, that there was definitely willingness on both sides. And I think pretty much it sort of rescued Harry's trip because he had the issues over his security, when he was going to stay, whether the King was going to grant him an audience. Then, of course, the big court case, the judgment that went against him and his fellow claimants against Associated Newspapers, publishers of the Daily Mail and Mail Online, Mail on Sunday, which didn't go his way. Pretty choice language, calling it a complete whitewash. I think that was pretty punchy and pretty explains why that, whether it's the King or his aides, Buckingham Palace didn't want him staying at a royal palace when you're delivering such a statement like that. And I think, of course, he would have released a statement whether it had gone his way or not. But if you're criticising the judiciary in this country, that your sort of your father's crest is above each court in the land, it gets pretty difficult. But those conversations did reach ahead, and of course we know that Meghan and the children went to Highgrove, spent a period of time, an hour or so, with the king. But interestingly, Camilla was there, and I don't think maybe that wouldn't have been on Harry's bingo card. She hasn't been at I don't think she's been at any of the previous meetings, which were 30, 40, 50 minutes when he has met the king at Clarence House before. But what can we deduct from or deduce from Camilla being there? I mean, was she there as sort of someone to keep tabs, keep the minutes, making sure that Harry didn't sort of pull any strokes, that
or a buffer of sorts?
A buffer, definitely, to sort of move the conversation along. I mean, if most people reading this podcast, listening to this podcast, will have read Harry's memoir Spare, and of course he spoke about Camilla in not so glowing terms, talking about the wicked stepmother, or his fears that she was going to be a wicked stepmother.
Yeah,
saying that they got on fine. I don't think there's any particularly love lost there. But why do you think Camilla was there? I mean, that's a good phrase, actually, a buffer of sorts.
Yeah, well, I think, as you said, it's believed that last time Harry and Charles had a meeting was last September, when Harry was here for the World Child Awards, which is believed to have just been Harry and his father, as probably should have been. And I think Camilla being there is a really interesting sign of where things are going to go next, given what Harry has said about Camilla in the past, and especially in Spare. I think if Camilla is happy to meet with Harry and also with Meghan, whether for the sake of the kids or to reconcile as a whole family, I think that's a really positive step in, well, maybe William and Catherine going to be next? Maybe it's an interesting step in, let's see where the reconciliations and the apologies and all of that lead. But yeah, definitely interesting that Camilla was there.
Well, you can tell listeners this is why we have such a good team, because Charlotte is ever the optimist with her glass half full.
Someone has to be.
I know I am this sort of dour partner in this relationship of thinking, well, I mean, of course, Harry and Meghan did not get to see the Prince and Princess of Wales. We know certainly that the relationship between the four of them is pretty much rock bottom. I don't think we can beat around the bush in that sense, because Harry and William have not spoken for over 2 years. There is no sort of green shoots of a new relationship on there. But never say never, I suppose. If the king wills it, then will William and Catherine have to fall in line? Will they have to? If Harry does come over, we expect him to come over in September, which is just a few weeks away for the World Child Awards. He's normally here. That was the last time he got to see his father. He didn't see him earlier in the year when he was over. And then of course, there is the issue of him coming over next year for the Invictus Games. And undoubtedly, I think that Meghan will want to be there. I mean, that was supposed to be her big reintroduction to the Brits. It was a safe space. I understand that Meghan has taken a real interest in the Invictus Games. She's been helping Harry with the planning for this series of events when he was here. And she will undoubtedly want to be there. Will the children turn up? Will there be sort of this family reunion? There's lots been said about whether the king will be there as well. It's sort of Harry's crowning achievement. Will the king want to see his son in his element? Because I'm not sure if our listeners around the world will have managed to see, I'm sure it's on YouTube, Harry spoke to Alison Hammond, who's one of the presenters on a show called This Morning, on breakfast television here in the UK. And there were no punchy questions. It was very, very much light breakfast television. But what was not necessarily surprising, but Harry looked very, very relaxed. I mean, he's had a stressful few days, not only the court case, but the business of where he was going to stay, up in the air about whether he was going to be able to see his father, bring Meghan and the children over. But he was very, very relaxed. And he was in his element. He was speaking about the Invictus Games. He was speaking about coming back to Birmingham. Alison Hammond is, one of our national treasures in this country. She is also from Birmingham, and it wasn't sort of like a Newsnight interview where she was quizzing him on the state of relations with his family, and you wouldn't have expected that. But what was interesting was about how Harry was feeling very, very relaxed in that environment. And I think when he does come back, especially next year for the games, one would imagine that he will want his family to be alongside him. But one of the big questions remains as to what is going to happen with his security, because has that all been blown out the water now? So he's lost the High Court case. He's lost the Court of Appeal. He didn't get the review that he requested from the Home Secretary. Again, over the weekend we're going to be doing a story on the Mirror, which is that Harry is going to keep pursuing this cause. He's going to ask the Home Office once again for this review. He believes that his family can't be in London safely. That's why Meghan didn't come to the capital. But has he sort of shot himself in the foot? Is the argument finished now? Because Meghan and the children have been here. They flew in, they flew out, they stayed at Althorp House. I understand that they left. They didn't leave on Sunday. They stayed for a few days. They were seeing friends. They left on Tuesday. So surely this sort of just completely torpedoes his argument.
You would think, and especially the fact that we didn't see Meghan. We didn't see the children.
Yeah, not one photo of them arriving. We saw Harry being driven out of Althorp to go to, I think it was the event on the Saturday, which was Scotty's Little Soldiers festival, playing with kids and goats. He looked very, very happy with himself. But, I mean, I find it astonishing that there were there's several entrances and exits to Althorp. But, I mean, were you surprised that we didn't see one picture of them arriving or departing at all?
I am, yes. And I think the fact as well, as you just said, we didn't even know when they left the UK.
Yeah.
So it is obviously possible to keep a huge visit like this a complete secret from the public. So, and as you said, Harry's been saying for many, many years that he feels it's not safe to bring Meghan and Archie and Lilibet to the UK without the police protection. And even though it was all denied and denied and denied again, he still chose to. So again, it does beg an interesting question of what was the fight all for, firstly, but is it, if you can maintain such a level of secrecy around this trip, then maybe it is fine. I don't know.
Exactly. I mean, I flip-flop, really. I mean, I have sympathy for him. He is the son of the king. He is a former British soldier. There have been credible threats on his life and that of his family.
Yeah.
I get it. But once you've made such a big deal, you've spent so much money in court taking this. You've lost several cases now, or you've lost two. The Home Office haven't been moved to grant you this review. I mean, the mood music I was hearing was that the Home Secretary was going to change her mind, and yet what should have taken weeks, and Harry's team were led to believe that it would take a matter of weeks, has taken over 6 months now. So it doesn't look like it's going to be forthcoming. Why would they give it to him if he was going to just turn up on his own, which is expected in September for the awards? He'll probably be in and out in a couple of days. Next year is possibly the bigger question, and if he keeps asking for it, maybe that was why Camilla was there as well. Because if he's trying to sort of lobby his father, saying, you've got to get involved in this. I mean, he said in that BBC interview when he lost the first case that he wanted his father to get involved. My father can get involved if he wants to. I mean, I dispute that, because it's the king does not want to get involved in a decision by the Home Office or the judiciary. So where does this leave him? So
tomorrow morning is knocking. Stock your fridge now. How about a creamy mocha frappuccino drink? Or a sweet vanilla? Smooth caramel maybe? Or a white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Find Starbucks Frappuccino drinks wherever you buy your groceries.
If you've ever blasted synth beats from your boombox or burned CDs for your besties, this one's for you. As people get older, much like their music tastes, their health needs change. AG1 is the simple daily health drink designed to deliver over 75 essential daily nutrients and pre- and probiotics to support energy, digestion, and mood. so you can make the most out of every decade and dance break. Learn more at drinkag1.com.
I mean, we'll take this up another time, I imagine. But I suppose we should move on to sort of happier times, because it was a good ending for Harry. I mean, regardless of the sort of conjecture about his trip and the controversy over his decision whether he was going to stay at Buckingham Palace or not. But we did see him pop up on a surprise podcast, and it is Joe Marler's. Well, Joe Marler Will See You Now is a podcast. Joe Marler is a former England rugby international. He was on the TV show called The Traitors. He's sort of been taken into the bosom of the British public. He's a very, very popular figure. You have watched this, and
I have.
It's very, very interesting. So the Duke, as he referred to himself, and
several times.
Several times. I mean, the concept of Joe Marler's podcast is pretty much to sit down with a famous guest, and he gets them to speak about their life. And I suppose it's almost like a revealing portrait of people in the public eye that you necessarily wouldn't get to learn about them if it was just a normal interview about, their film or their sports life or what they're doing. So what was most surprised about you? There was a series of quick-fire random questions, sort of Harry mocking his hairstyle, proclaiming to be auburn haired rather than ginger, and Art gave his full name. But what I found, he was very self-deprecating, wasn't he? And that was quite surprising.
He has very, very dry sense of humor, which I think resonated with a lot of people. As while I was watching this podcast, I was going on and reading all the comments of what people were saying, and there were a lot of people who were surprised to see him so laid back, so candid, willing to have a laugh and have a laugh at his own expense. Because, the last few times we've seen Harry speaking in public, it is on something quite serious, whether he's talking about his passion for Invictus or his kind of push for online safety and things like that.
Or his various legal battles.
And so most of the time we're hearing him speak, it's very serious and to the point. But something like this, it just kind of humanizes him a little bit. He's willing to sit down and just have a laugh at himself.
Yeah, I mean, so it's reading sort of the blurb on Spotify. Apparently, host Marler uses his podcast to get inside the mind of a different celebrity using unconventional methods. And Harry's interview was certainly no exception, was it? I mean, he was he asked, which other famous Harry would he swap lives with for a day? So he had three choices: Wizard Harry Potter, England national football team captain Harry Kane, or musician Harry Styles. Who did he choose?
He chose Harry Kane, but specifically on a winning day. Which,
right.
Unfortunately
not
for Harry Kane, is not coming around anytime soon. But he was also, as you said, joking about his hair. I thought this clip was really, really funny. He's so dry and doesn't crack a smile while he's saying that, well, he's not ginger. His hair is actually sunset auburn color. And as the crew laugh around him, he goes, well, I don't see why that's funny, which then prompts an even bigger laugh from everybody. And it's just like these really funny, candid moments that, as I said, just kind of bring him into a more natural light. But there was one comment, however, that seemed to rub a few people the wrong way.
Some people. You can't have a Harry story without riding
a
few
of course
people.
Not.
What did we have? Enlighten us.
So in the quick fire round of this podcast, Joe Marler asks him his occupation, to which he says he's a full-time dad, a British Army veteran, and then he says he is the Prince of England, or a Prince of England, as his occupation.
Yes,
technically true. However, some critics were up in arms because to say he was his occupation, his day job is Prince of England, when it's been a bit over 6 years now since he and Meghan quit their royal roles and relocated to California, is an interesting claim. And while you said technically true, not everybody thought so.
No, come on, he's not. He is a Prince of England in all of name.
Yes.
I don't think that is his job role. Also, as I said, Duke, which Joe Marler sort of was referring to him as Duke. I mean,
yes.
I what is Harry's job? He is a founder? I mean, that seems
he's a founder. Yes, which he
he's
also
a
does
founder.
go on to say that he is founder of Invictus, and he does
And
a
that
lot
is
of
that is
charity
his job.
work and things. Yeah,
Global humanitarian. I mean, but that might have
Yes.
sounded a bit pompous, but I suppose that is probably what he does now. He does.
Yeah.
He is a humanitarian, a philanthropist, regardless of where his money comes from. But I think if you haven't heard it, it is a great chat, and you're very right. It does show a different side to him, and something that we've probably been missing out of all the sort of fire and fury over the last few years of conversations with his family and the various court cases against the British press and the government. So I did enjoy it, and I did. I thought it was quite enlightening. Harry was also speaking about the resilience at the heart of the Invictus Games, which is, as I said, going to be held in Birmingham next year, and Joe Marler, which was quite you could call that not intrusive, but it was sort of enlightening as to Harry and how, because like you said, when he's sort of speaking about his own life over the last few years or his relationship with his family, it gets very heavy. But he was asked about his own methods for dealing with hard times, and Harry came out with some great advice. He said it was important to move the body. He said he swims, he likes being in nature. He found boxing as effective for his coping mechanisms when he's stressed. And again, I thought that was just a nice, relaxed chat. It wasn't too heavy. It didn't need to be any questions about his family drama. He seems to be having a very nice life over in California. So maybe we'll have a bit of dose of your optimism on this lovely sunny day, because I think that you are potentially right, because it is going to, if they've crossed that bridge now, that Meghan and the children have come over, regardless of Harry's fight with the government over his security, maybe there is hope for that reconciliation that he wants with his family. But moving on from one sporting event to another, as I mentioned at the top of the show, England sadly dumped out of the World Cup, losing 2-1 to Argentina. Very depressed for a few people in the office over the last couple of days, myself included. However, we did get two statements from not only the King, but the Prince of Wales as well, who is the patron of the Football Association. And I found these two statements fascinating, and I wrote my newsletter. If you haven't signed up, it is the new newsletter, which is out now, Royal Insider. It's in your inboxes every Thursday. You can sign up to it via Mirror Plus. Now, what do we have? We had not only England fans heartbroken, their dreams of ending 60 years of World Cup heartache were crushed, unfortunately, by the defending champions. But King Charles was the first to post on the official royal family account, and he said, "Commiserations to Harry," which is Harry Kane, England team captain, "and the team. While you three lions may be licking your wounds today, you remain the pride of a nation and will rise again." Williams was quite the contrast, because he took to their own social media accounts and he said, "Gutted. England, you gave it everything and we are all so proud of you. Thank you to everyone on and off the pitch for an incredible tournament. The fight and belief you have shown has inspired us all. The most complete England team in a tournament. Hold your heads high." I mean, on first glance, these two statements appear quite similar. They both emphasize pride rather than the crushing disappointment that we were all feeling. And both were encouraging England to look forward, I suppose, rather than dwell on the misery of defeat. However, when you actually break it down, you look at the tone, the vocabulary, the structure of each sentence, and they really did reflect these two very different royal personalities. Charles writes like a monarch, and yet his heir, William, writes like a football fan. We were talking last week about William on Travis Kelce's podcast, and he revealed that Charles hates football. And we know that William loves football, big Aston Villa fan, big England fan. He's obviously devastated that he's not going to get to go to the World Cup because he was going to go to the final. But what did you think about these two? I mean, just to give you sort of a flavour of what I wrote, I was very much along the emphasis of they explore different personalities. William definitely speaks in a more relaxed language. Definitely, the distinction is of him as a football fan. The word, you wouldn't hear the King saying "gutted," would you? You'd have,
No.
he's devastated, or he was talking about drowning our sorrows yesterday when he was in a pub in Dorset pulling a pint. But I thought that this spoke very much of how William and Catherine are sort of developing this more relaxed style. You know, we've seen them speaking about mental health and homelessness and environmental issues. Catherine speaking about her own personal battles with her cancer and her various health ailments. And is this the distinction? Am I right or am I mad about this distinction between King and William and these two sort of different, very different personalities, but these different worlds as well, and how we're witnessing in real time that we are moving into a very different future monarchy?
No, you are definitely right. No, you're not mad.
Not this time, anyway.
Yes, I completely agree with you with William's statement. It's like it sounds like something he'd message to a friend or something.
Yeah, it's very relaxed, isn't it?
Yeah. And obviously Charles's statement was much more formal, which is to be expected from the monarch. But I think, you know, we've seen William cheering and crying and throwing his hands around at football games before. We know that he's a huge football fan. And I think having the more relaxed tone in his statement really connects with people more so. Because as I said,
right.
It's just like you're chatting to a friend. You're saying how heartbroken you are over the World Cup. And yeah, I think it really resonates with people. I think that level of kind of more relaxed communication. And as an Australian, I've been heartbroken over the World Cup for several weeks now. So,
well, the Socceroos didn't do too badly. It's a great achievement to get there. I enjoyed this World Cup. We were talking about the timings being brutal for us Brits, but they must have been horrendous. I think the last game was like 3 a.m. or some 4 a.m. for the Aussies.
Oh,
it wasn't great
timing.
timings.
Lots of alarms being set, I think, to wake up in the middle of the night.
Yeah, it's been a great World Cup. Congratulations to Argentina. It's going to be a great final on Sunday against Spain. But so just to sort of close this off, I enjoyed sort of dissecting the two statements. Of course, we are expecting Charles speaks as this sort of reassuring voice of the institution. His words always embody stability, the continuity, I think the restraint of a constitutional monarchy. And then, when you're looking at William's language, it definitely is more conversational. It's emotionally engaged. He's definitely more comfortable speaking like that. But, we will see, because I think he will need to develop more of an appreciation for that constitutional restraint in the future. When he is the king, we hope that Charles has many more happy and fruitful and healthy years ahead of him. But this is something we are witnessing happening in real time, and William will have to change tact. Will he be shouting and screaming like a football fan, like he has been over the last few years? We've seen him, especially with George, taking him to the Euros last time. I would like to think that he wouldn't lose that element of his character. We've seen other royals at the World Cup. I think the Dutch royal family were there. King Felipe was there from Spain. So it's a shame that he didn't go. I think he probably should have gone to the quarterfinals and then definitely the semi. It would have been appropriate for him to be there in his role as a patron of the FA as well. But while we're on again, it's quite a sporting week, because we saw the Prince and Princess of Wales braving the incredible heat we've had in London and beyond at the tennis. We saw Catherine at the women's final on Saturday, and then all the family at the men's final. We saw the Prince and Princess of Wales taking Charlotte and George to the event. I think this is, again, further indication of introducing the family a little bit more. We have seen Charlotte and George at these very public events. You're in the royal box, you are very much on show. You think? George is going to school. He's starting Eton at his 13 next year. He's going to be starting secondary school. This is very much a case of sort of gentle introduction, isn't it? With George going to school, I suppose, is this something that is it something that we are going to see less of George, do you think?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think we'll continue to see him, but at the same steady rate that we have been over the last 3 years, let's say. I think we'll continue to see him at things like Wimbledon and things like Trooping the Colour and, you know, stepping out for Kate's annual Christmas concert and things like that. I would be interested. It'll be interesting to see, though, when he does head off to Eton, which is, you know, not that far away now.
No, I'll just correct myself because he's actually 13 next week. I mean, it's
It's
not next year. I don't mean that next week. It's his birthday. I mean, this is definitely a sort of coming of age. I imagine, when the children go to school, like Harry and William, there was very much a case of they are left alone. They're just allowed to get on with their own school life. There will be very much a case of the press respecting that as well. But I hope it isn't. I hope he does sort of, you know, continue those moments, because we saw him really take. I remember being there when the Buckingham Palace hosted all the veterans and their families for VE Day. And it was a great occasion, and you saw him sort of really emerge into this very confident young man. And he does, especially with Charlotte by his side, he does feel he's quite assured, and he's very young, 13. But this is sort of his future and his destiny. So it would be nice to see him to do a few more of these public events, wouldn't it?
When do you think Louis is going to make his Wimbledon debut?
Well, I suppose it will be maybe next year, because we saw here the Princess of Wales and Louis, or there was a picture that emerged from them. They were at the ballet this week, weren't they? And we saw, but that wasn't a public event. I mean, there is definitely more. He's growing up now. He's 7. I mean, that is something that. I suppose more occasions like Trooping the Colour, the princesses together at Christmas event is always a good one. I mean, we're coming thick and fast into the second half of the year now, so hopefully there's going to be some more occasions for them. And I definitely think, you know, if the Prince and Princess of Wales are going to do a tour in the States or Australia, definitely going to call it that they would take the children, because that would be absolutely blockbuster. And
do you think that all 3 of the children would go?
Yeah, I do. I think if it was in the summer holidays in the UK, that's a great time to go to the States. Australia, it's winter, isn't it?
I'm just 17 degrees.
Yeah, exactly.
That's our winter.
Yeah. I mean, how have you found your British winters here? It must be.
Oh, British winter? Oh,
Yeah.
horrible.
Yeah,
horrible.
horrid,
I never owned a proper winter coat until I moved here.
Well, I think that is something we can look forward to the future. Of course, there's going to be some big tours coming up. We have the King going to the Chogan Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Antigua. I'm going to be delving into that more in a few weeks and bringing you some exclusive news on that trip in the summer, which is very, very exciting. And then we have the Prince and Princess of Wales going to India for Earthshot Awards, and I think that will be more of a diplomatic mission as well, possibly going to Delhi to meet the Prime Minister as well. So that won't be with the children. However, it will be absolutely blockbuster trip. So just before we wrap up for this week, I just want to wish a happy birthday to Queen Camilla. It is her 79th birthday today, and as I mentioned at the start, she has announced a book giveaway, which is that every year 6 child, that is the first year that you go into. Oh no, is it your final? Year 6 is your final primary school year, and they're going to be receiving a special edition of Catherine Rundell's Impossible Creatures at Christmas. This is not only to celebrate her birthday, but of course the Queen has made literacy one of her key campaign issues, and she arranged for this special edition of Catherine Rundell's books to be given to school children this Christmas. Buckingham Palace also released a new photograph of the Queen on Friday to mark her 79th birthday, taken last month in the State Drawing Room at Hillsborough Castle in Northern Ireland. So happy birthday to the Queen. As the King said this week when he was in Dorset pub, you know, maybe we can pour one out this weekend to drown our sorrows, but very much looking forward to the future and the great summer ahead. The Prince and Princess of Wales are pretty much on holiday now. There's going to be some engagements next week for the King and Queen around the country before they go on their break at the end of the month. So please do join us as usual on social media. We love to hear your questions. We're going to be answering some of them over the summer week. So please send us some questions, things you want to know, things you maybe think that we haven't covered, maybe some topics for us to delve into as well. And thank you very much, Charlotte, for joining us this week. It's been great to have you on the pod.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been very fun.
It's been super. And please do join us next time. We'd love to have you on the show with us as well.
Pod save the king.